Hey, welcome. So today I'm going to be talking about the Kosas Airbrow and how it stacks up against my running favorite brow gels, which include the e.l.f. Wow Brow and the Glossier Boy Brow. The Kosas Airbrow I got maybe about a week ago and have been testing it out. It is $22, which I would say is quite expensive for a brow gel, considering that brow gels are something that you really run through on probably a pretty daily consistent use. So to be repurchasing that multiple times a year, kind of a lot. I have a lot less hesitancy when it comes to spending big bucks on something like a lipstick or an eyeshadow palette, which will likely last you like until you are okay with throwing it out or its expiring date. In any case, the Airbrow and the e.l.f. Wow Brow, they both have the exact same, and the Glossier one for that matter, they all have the exact same amount of product, which is 0.12 ounces. I thought at first that maybe the Kosas one would have more product, but it's really just that the packaging is bulkier. But that being said, it is a pretty cute packaging. You know, it feels a lot more sturdy. It offers more aesthetically, so maybe that's worth something to others out there. They also offer 10 shades as well as a clear brow gel, which is vastly more than pretty much any other brow gel shade range I've seen. It's generally only like 5 shades tops, running from maybe like a taupey to a black. But there are a lot of subtle nuances in the colors offered here. So I think if you're someone who really struggles to get a brow gel in the color that you want, this might be a good range to check out. I have the color black, and it kind of doesn't look exactly black to me, but I've been happy enough with it. You could convince me that it was like a dark brown shade. It's got the largest applicator, I would say. The Glossier Boy Brow has a really nice small little mascara wand. It fits really nicely in my rather small brows. The Kosas Airbrow is more comparable in size to the e.l.f. Wow Brow, where the Kosas one is just a little bit more angular, but regardless, the main takeaway is that it is bigger. It is quite a juicy product, I would say. My brows in particular the hairs are quite fine. They are pretty light in contrast to like the rest of my face. You know, they're technically black, but they're sparse enough that it looks very light on my face, I think. There's definitely areas where you can see the skin in between my brow hairs. So because of all these factors, and my brows are kind of small, it can be easy for brow gels to get kind of messy and overboard if it is a formula that can cling to the skin underneath or can goop up. And this kind of falls into that category for me a bit. It is just, hopefully it'll dry out and become a little bit easier to use, but the formula, there's just kind of a lot of product that wants to deposit itself onto my brows, and if I'm working kind of gingerly with it, I can kind of create a pretty smooth look. I have it on my brows today, and they do deposit a good amount of color at once. It's just that they are a little bit challenging to kind of finick with if your brows are not already a nice shape. For example, this brow, it's just the good brow, okay? The shape is pretty good and there's an even distribution of hair all over. Whereas this brow, I always have a little bald patch like here-ish, or it's just a little sparser here, it's a little bit patchier here. And because of that, I have to compensate by going in a little bit more in those areas. And I feel like you can kind of see this one just looks really even and pretty and laid down. This one is like a little bit choppy and clumpy, maybe in this area where I had to go back a little bit more. And I think if you can go through your brows in a few quick strokes, This one can look good, but if you have to do some more detail work in one area or another, it can get a little bit hard to layer up smoothly. It can deposit a lot of product in one place at once, and then it's just kind of hard to work out. I feel like it just adds on more and more and gets a little bit messy, and then I want to go in with a clean spoolie. That being said, it does deposit a lot of color and creates a very nice fluffy brow look. In contrast, the Glossier Boy Brow has a pretty gel-like, thinner formula, definitely thinner than the Airbrow. And I feel like this adds a lot of definition to my brow hairs. It kind of feels like a nice defining mascara, you know? It just kind of coats each individual existing hair. It doesn't get messy with the skin underneath. It doesn't like clump together my brow hairs. It just adds a lot more volume and length and definition to each individual ones of my brow hairs, and I really like that effect, and it's pretty hard for me to mess up this brow gel. The e.l.f. Wow Brow, oh, side note, I noticed that they changed their shade selection and they don't sell black anymore. Pretty annoying. I have the shade Neutral Brown, and I've tried their Deepest Brown or Darkest Brown. I think I've tried the two like darkest brown shades that they offer, and both work for me. Neutral Brown does kind of create a pretty light look, but I'm like fine with it. It doesn't bother me too much. In any case, the e.l.f. Wow Brow also, it's got some fibers in it, but it definitely helps as opposed to the Glossier, which creates a very defined and like enhances each lash eyebrow hair. The e.l.f. Wow Brow creates a more fluffy and softer look. I feel like it does a little bit to lengthen each of my brow hairs. It kind of like creates a nice volumized brow in general, but maybe it doesn't like add that same definition to each brow hair that the Glossier Wow Brow does. It does kind of blur everything together into like a pretty brow overall. Similarly to the Glossier Wow Brow, this is one of my criteria for what makes a brow gel good and easy for me to use every day. Very, very hard to mess up. I feel like I can just swipe it up, I can layer it up and build it up where I need to. I can like have a very light brow day or build it up to be more intense. And moreover, even if I do kind of smear it and smudge it out of my brow line shape or like on the skin underneath, it's very easy to just continue spoolieing through with the brush here, and it'll kind of redistribute where I want it to be. And that is like the distinction that the Kosas Airbrow doesn't really do. It'll kind of smear into one place, and it'll be hard to undo that without going in with just a clean spoolie. And then finally, the Kosas Airbrow, it's got that signature Kosas scent that I complain about every time, and I never see anyone else really mention, but it is so, so strong to me. Like I can put it on my brows and smell it for like a solid minute after, which is really weird for a brow product, I think. It smells exactly like their concealer and their foundation. It's this very like sickly floral scent. Like it smells like a flower, but elevated and like to the point where it's too much and you're like, oh man, this is really gonna kickstart my allergies for the day. Really not a fan of the scent. I, for myself, don't think I would be repurchasing this Airbrow. Certainly for one, it's just not in my like budget of how much I want to spend for a brow gel, and my like current favorites I just like a lot more in terms of performance for me and what my brows are like. I do think that if you're someone who has nicely shaped, fairly full brows already, this could be a good one to really be like super quick because it deposits more color at once. You can swipe this through your brows like 3 times and it'll look fuller, fluffier, and a lot darker. So it could be a faster option than either of these two. Let me know if you have any other questions about brow gels that you want to see comparisons against. I feel pretty confident about my two favorites, but I like to keep, you know, scanning the horizons for anything interesting. Also, like, brow gels are so easy to try. You know, I'm always running out and needing another one. So there's that. Okay, thank you for watching.